Chatter. We're live with Q&A Friday. How are we doing this morning? Oh wow. I don't know what is I'm gonna have to perfect that. I'm gonna have to perfect that other one. So that's okay. We're gonna be okay. Things go wrong, things go right. If you're in the hallway, come on in alive. This is good contracting chatter where we discuss all things government contracting, all things business. I am your host, Luciana Turner. This is supposed to be Q&A Friday where you come in and ask questions, your government contracting questions. Now, you know how TikTok is. I'm streaming across multiple platforms. I'm streaming on TikTok. TikTok will pause, disable, and all kinds of things to live. So that's the only reason I'm asking you to tap the screen like the live. I don't ask for gifts. If you choose to gift, that's fine. But I do ask that you engage with the live some kind of way to keep the live going. Other than that, this is Q&A Friday, as I said before. The purpose of the live and Q&A Fridays, and I was doing running it for during the month of June, was so that you get a taste of what the chatter family is like. And you get a taste of what the private coaching is. That's Q&A Fridays. Now, Chatter Family is a monthly subscription. You receive a newsletter, and we cover some topic during our sessions. You also receive access to private subscriber only lives that are not on TikTok, but they're subscriber only lives. Now, you also get access to a private studio during my morning lives. So when I go live during contracting chatter, you're in a virtual studio, all for $9.99 a month. So in addition to the private lives, which is just me and the chatter family, you're also in a virtual studio during my contracting chatter lives. All of that's just $9.99 a month. So Q&A Friday is just a taste of what those private lives are like. That's all. And I'm stopped doing Q&A Fridays at the end of June. So I believe there's only one more Q&A Friday. Then it's just regular content every Friday. Now, here's the thing. People often complain that consultants and coaches such as myself don't make insider content available free. However, when we make these offers or we're doing these sessions like this, you don't take advantage of it. Good morning. And you have to ask yourself, why don't you take advantage when any consultant or any coach is offering their knowledge for free? That's a you thing. Q&A Fridays is an opportunity for you to actually ask questions and receive answers on a level that I would only provide to a paying client. But it is what it is. I can only do so much. The rest is up to you. But I'm always prepared because I have content just in case nobody asks me questions. And one of the things, shoot, one of the things I want to talk about is there are a variety of industry conferences, a host of them. And government contractors, you need to attend. I'm not saying every conference, but you do need to attend some conferences based upon the services you offer and based upon, ooh, let me finish this thought. You need to attend conferences based upon the services you offer. Good morning. I am Bula. Based upon the services that you offer and whether or not your customer attends the conference. Most government agencies host conferences to the public. They are not free. The ones that contain your contracting officers. The decision makers typically do not attend the free conferences. And then I'm gonna also go here. Conferences are expensive. I put them on. I put on training events. And I'm planning my major 10-year anniversary conference for 2025. They're expensive. Even with sponsors, they're expensive. So you're going to pay to get in the room, and you're going to pay a price to gain access to the people you really need to talk to. And the higher the ticket, the more you're paying and the greater the access that you have. I'm going to come back to that thought later. Now, the question I was just asked is you're new to the area and you want to start doing small federal contracts locally. And how should you start? One of the ways that you find local federal contracts, and I keep telling people this, you have to follow the dollars. All federal dollars end up local in some way, shape, or form because local dollars fund federal, sorry, all federal dollars fund local contracts. So there's one of two ways to do this. You can start with, you have to identify the agency you want to work with. Who do you want to work with? And often I hear the answer, I want to work with the government. Who? You have to start with the who, and then you can get to the where. So, who do you want to work with? I'm going to just throw out, you want to work with the Department of Health. Now, the Department of Health does fund projects on the local level. I would actually start. A lot of people said go to Sam's, go to their federal website, start there. Every federal agency put out what they call their forecast. In their forecast, it contains their contracts, what the current contracts that are running, and their anticipated contracts, and where those contracts will be funded or where they're going to be operated at. Then go to Sam's. If you don't know what you're looking for, starting in Sam's is an exercise in frustration. So start at the agency's website and then work your way down. So you start with their forecast. Yeah, I'm assuming you know your NACE code. So I always assume you know your NACE codes, and if you don't know your NACE code, that's a training class to work your go from service to NACE code. That's a training class. Start with the agency's forecast. Good morning, Vivian. On that forecast, you will see their current contracts and the contracts they intend to release. Go from that forecast, and when the in the forecast will also tell you where that contract is going to be operated at. It'll tell you if it's going to be in DC, Georgia, Virginia. It'll tell you that. Once you identify the contract, then you go to SAMS and look it up. And then you can pull it, then you can pull the RFP from there. Good morning, winning. So that's how you locate the federal opportunities in your local area. Also define what you mean by local area. If you're based in Georgia, you may define your local area to be Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida. That might be your local area. Your local area might be Georgia, Alabama. Your local area may only be anything within a 100-mile radius. You, as a business entity, have to define what is local to you. It can be anything in the southeastern territories if you're in the south. If you're in the north, it's the northeastern. If you're in mid the middle area, if you're in Virginia, it can be anything in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia range. You, as the organization, defines what's local for you, and that area that you can then service reasonably. If you cannot reasonably service the area, then that area is not local for you. If I feel I can service the entire Eastern Seaboard, then that's local for me. You have to define it. If I start off saying local is North Carolina, Virginia, and DC, and then I expand it, then I have expanded my local service area. That is why you need to have a board meeting, even if it's just you and yourself and you need to have a board meeting to discuss your strategy yearly. What is your business strategy for the year? Then you need to have a strategic planning week that would define your contracting strategy. People get into government contracting they're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks. And bad grammar intended, that's expensive, that's frustrating, and then people want to yell government contracting doesn't work. No, you're not working it properly. No, you're doing it in a way that you're frustrating yourself. You don't do business like that. That isn't how you do a profitable business. That's called insanity. And recognizing where you are in the process is the first step to course correcting. We are at June 21st. And if you recognize that you have been participating in activities that have been frustrating yourself, good morning, Moses, frustrating yourself, you can now say, okay, I'm going to stop it. Course correct. You can have your board meeting today, June 21st. After I get off this live, I'm having a board meeting with me, myself, and I, if you are the only one in your company, and you're going to define your plan of action for the rest of the year. That's your business plan. Now, with your business plan, you're going to create a contracting plan to fulfill your business plan. Now, somebody asked me the question, what's a contracting plan? Thank you for asking me. A contracting plan, and I have it in my book, Keys to Government Contracting. A contracting plan is where you say, I want a contract mix that will help me meet the goals of my business. What is a contract mix? I'm glad you asked the question. A contract mix is a collection of contracts with overlapping end dates so that my business has sustainability. You don't want contracts that all start at the same time and end at the same time. That's chaos. You want contracts, when possible, that stagger so that your onboarding for this contract potentially does not conflict with the onboarding of the next contract. If this contract is ending, but you have two more that are constantly going, that gives you time to write to others. That also gives you time to review what's going on and talk to the other ones. You can review your wrap rate. If you're burning through the funding for these other contracts, you can sit and plan and you still know that these others are safe. But if all your contracts are running on the same schedule, you just created chaos for yourself. That's why you need a plan. Did that make sense, or do I need to make that clear? Or do you just need to book a session with me? One strategy session with me will help with your contracting plan. Ideally, this is what my mastermind does. My mastermind, for those who want to go there, we would ideally create a strategic plan for the year and then have check-ins so that we can adjust that strategic plan, set up your search engine, and because I'm gonna even go here. People say they have NAICE codes and they in the wrong NAICE codes, but that's another conversation. Check your NAICE codes. I know my NAICE codes. When did you pick your NAICE codes? When I got started? When did you get started? 5 years ago? What services do you offer? I offer these services. Are you doing that work? Well, I pivoted. Well, then you needed to pivot them NAICE codes. If 2 plus 2 4, then it stays 4. And if your service changed, your NAICE codes potentially changed. And if your NAICE codes didn't change, your strategy or your service description should have changed, even if your NAICE codes didn't. And you need NAICE codes when you open your business bank account. And I'm going to go here and I'm going a little bit higher. You should never let your bank tell you your NAICE codes. You tell your bank your NAICE codes. And you need your NAICE codes when you establish your business credit. And I'm going to say this, you need a DUNS number, whether you need DUNS for SAMs or not, because that's how you establish your business credit portfolio. DUNS was more than for SAMs. DUNS is for your business credit portfolio. So I hope that answered your question. Do we have any more questions? This is Q&A Friday. We're answering questions surrounding government contracting. We're answering questions surrounding business. Most people forget government contractors are businesses. And if your business isn't set on a solid foundation, then you cannot become a successful government contractor. Period. End of discussion. Now, I'm going to throw out a question everybody who wants to be a government contractor should be asking. What type of accounting system should I have? I'm glad you asked. You should have an accounting system that allows you to segregate costs. What does that mean? Your accounting system should allow you to separate overhead costs, G&A costs, direct and indirect costs. You need a chart of accounts. And if you have an accounting system and you're not utilizing the number feature, you need to turn that feature on. And if your accounting system does not allow redundancy in names, then you may want to consider a new accounting system, because you can have G&A travel, overhead travel, and direct travel. Why do I need all these travel accounts? Because if I'm traveling as a function of my G&A, general administrative costs, that needs to be recorded. If I'm traveling as a function of my overhead, that needs to be recorded as overhead. And if I'm traveling as a function of my project, then that needs to be recorded. And they need to be recorded separately. And it needs to be captured separately. And then your accounting system needs to be able to record on the project level. So we're going a little bit higher and a little bit deeper. If I'm working a project, and that project requires me to buy supplies, and I need to take those supplies from point A to point B, stay in a hotel, host a training, hire consultants, and then travel back home, my accounting system, and then have an internal meeting, my accounting system needs to be able to record supplies for the project, that's an account, meeting for the project, that's an account, training for the project, that's an account. Then, as a function of overhead on that project, the labor for that overhead meeting, that's what your accounting system needs to be able to do. Because when you push the button to develop your reporting, you need to develop a report to support your bill to the government. You need to be able to push a button to support the rate that you're billing the government. Because all costs can be redeemed unless expressly unallowable by law. Because we all know you can't bill alcohol to the government. There are some costs that are just expressly unallowable per FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation. And there are some costs that may be unbillable per your contract term. And just because one contract says it's unbillable does not mean it's unbillable per every contract. Some contracts say, I want you to perform this service, but I'm not paying travel. Okay, that's cool. So that has to go into that unbillable account for travel. It's unbillable, but it can go into the calculation for your rate. Unallowable and unbillable are two different costs. Unallowable, you can't use to calculate a rate. Unbillable, you can. Your accounting system need to be able to do all of that. So while you're focusing on proposals, that's nice. If your accounting system isn't right, you'll lose the contract anyway. And when you do the desk audit, they're going to ask you for all of this. Any more questions? This is Q&A Friday. You get to ask me government contracting questions. You get to ask me compliance questions. Q&A Friday for government contracting. Q&A on Friday for compliance questions. Business compliance, government contracting compliance, just general compliance. For those of you in the hallway viewing this live, come in to the live and ask your question. What accounting systems do I recommend? Whew. There isn't one particular accounting system. There are accounting systems that are get through DCAA audit easier, and they don't need they're set up for government accounting. Sage is one. Sage is pricey, but Sage is automatically there is what Sage was developed to be a government contracting accounting system. Oracle is another. Oracle is a little technical, but Oracle has a great product. I've used Oracle when I was in corporate. It's a great product. Cost Point is on point, and Cost Point dominates the government contracting world. I'm going to tell anybody who is new, stay away from Cost Point. It costs money. Yes, Charlotte is beautiful, country boy. Um, Cost Point costs money, but when you hit a certain point, when you hit the $1 million realm, Cost Point or Oracle is where you need to go because their reporting tools is what you need, and they have the modules to spit out incurred cost submissions. And then all you need to do is do the reconciliations. And their teams, I have somebody who works with me who actually works for Cost Point. So the person who does my project setups works for Cost Point. I can't think of the name of the other company. And I can't remember if that company got bought out. So it might be why I can't think of the name of the company. But I'll come up with a list of companies and I'll post it in the Facebook group. The person who asked that question is in my private Facebook group. Sage isn't really that expensive. You can make QuickBooks work, but it's a whole lot of massaging to make it work. And when I say massaging, I'm talking about manipulation to make it work. You can make QuickBooks work, but it's a lot of massaging to make it work. You can make QuickBooks DCAA compliant, meaning you can get it through an audit. I know I have a friend who has a government contracting company, and she got it through a DCAA audit, but she admitted they had to do some things to do that. So you can make QuickBooks work, and QuickBooks is what a lot of people know. You can make it work. It just takes a little bit of massaging to make it work. So you can make it work. I've used CostPoint, I've used Oracle. And they have and you can like customize it. You don't have to buy all of the bells and whistles. You can start off small and then work big. Now, CostPoint on steroids is expensive. Don't do it. But don't do it if you're small. You need to be rolling. You need to be a government contracting business if you're going to do CostPoint or Oracle. You're not a novice. No. Revenue generating. If you're a government contracting business, and when I say government contracting business, I mean 90% of your revenue is going to come from government contracting. Once you hit a certain revenue, I would say sit down and decide which one of them you're going to do and commit to the commitment. Because CostPoint and Oracle have utilized GovWin. And GovWin is better than it has that component to research and pull RFPs and RFP history. But you've got to be, like I said, your revenue stream got to be like that to use that tool. But you can make QuickBooks work. You just have to massage it a little bit. Just a little bit. You got to massage it. And if you're applying multiple rates, if your contract mix requires you to use multiple rates, that's when I would say you need to start researching another tool, because QuickBooks is not designed to handle multiple rates. Any more questions? But once again, perhaps your contracting plan says you're not going to bid on any contracts that doesn't allow you to use anything but your rate. So that works for you. Perhaps you don't intend to go GSA. And this is a tip. If you do go GSA, some people will try to tell you you have to bid GSA on every contract you bid on. No, you only have to use the GSA rate on GSA contracts. And having a GSA schedule does not guarantee you a contract. You still have to market your GSA schedule rate. So everybody talking about, yeah, I've got GSA. You still got to put in work. That's still not a guarantee. You still have to put in the work. So do we have any more questions for Q&A Friday? This is where I'm answering questions on government contracting. I'm answering questions on government compliance. And I'm answering questions on business stabilization. I am going to touch on this area aspect of compliance before I close out for this morning. Disclosure statements. Disclosure statements are required for CAS covered companies. And then I'm going to talk about how you can work with me. Disclosure statements are required for CAS covered or cost accounting standard covered companies. CAS covered companies your CAS covered once you have 2 government clients and $75,000 worth of revenue. Then you've tripped the wire. There are several trip wires in government contracting. Then your company should develop a disclosure statement. I view the disclosure statement as a government contractor's business plan. It tells the government how you're structured, and it tells the government how you treat your cost. That's what a disclosure statement does. It tells the government how you're structured, and it tells the government how you treat your cost. The disclosure statement then becomes the basis of your audit. So you need to be doing what you say you do each time you're doing it. Because if you violate your disclosure statement, you're violating your word. Because you told the government what you do. So the government is auditing you based upon what you say you do. That's the disclosure statement. When you register in SAMS, they give you something called a cage code. That cage code is how they assign you to an audit office. And that is where your auditors are coming from. That's why they want to know, that's why they assign you a cage code. So your audit office is based upon your cage code. Pure and simple. So if you move your headquarters, but you don't tell them, and your cage code stays the same, your auditors are still coming out of that office that your original cage code was based out of. That's one of the reasons they updated SAMS. So that as you do this update, you need to make sure all your addresses are updated. And another thing about SAMS, the new SAMS, a lot of people are going into SAMS, registering, and their registration is getting kicked back. And you don't understand why. Because you need to pass a 3-point verification, and people are failing that. So you can't get past that. You're not getting past the rest of it. And the 3-point verification is typically where everybody's failing. Your address has to match the address you gave the IRS. So the address in SAMS need to match the address with the IRS, need to match your state address. Most people forget the address you gave the IRS when you first registered your business. So you're plugging along, filling out SAMS, and you're giving SAMS your current business address. Well, you forgot that you set up your business when you were living at your mama's house in the basement. And that is the address the IRS has. So you're registering as SAMS, and SAMS kicks back your registration. SAMS doesn't tell you why it kicks it back. So you're sitting there stuck. So then you do it again. And it kicks it back again. Well, until you call, maybe they'll tell you, maybe they won't. And usually when you call, all they'll tell you is there's a problem with the address. That's usually what they tell you. There's a problem with the address. It's up to you to figure out what the address problem is. And in a word to the wise, these people telling you once you file your business taxes, the IRS automatically updates your business address. That's a lie. You actually have to file the 8465 form. That is the official form to change your address with the IRS. Then the IRS will officially change your address. So I would recommend to everybody, before you waste your time and frustrate yourself, make sure that your address with the IRS matches the address that your state has. And then register with SAMS. Because if those addresses don't match, SAMS will kick it out every time. Now, your mailing address can be different. But if your business address, because they ask you for two addresses, your business address and your mailing address, they can be the same or they can be different. But if your business address does not match the IRS, it will kick out every time because it's failing authentication. Period. That's one of the ways. That is the primary reason a lot of people are failing. Now, if you wish to work with me, I have a pin post on my and all of my profiles. But you can actually reach out to me on my scheduling calendar, LTACG.as.me, and you can book a consultation. Now, my consultations are not free. However, when you come out of the consultation, you will come out with a plan. Some of you don't have a plan. You're just throwing spaghetti out at the wall and hoping that it sticks. And we need to stop doing that. I suggest you book that consultation. I have multiple options. You can do a consultation, you can do a strategy day. I have the contracting and business week. Maybe you don't want to book a full consultation yet. You're like, I need to do something else. I have the contracting and business week VIP option coming. That is where contracting and business week is free. The VIP option is $97. After the free session, you go into Q&A with me. I have a masterclass that's Saturday. That's scheduled for an hour and a half. And then there's some other perks, bells, and whistles. I have a contractors intensive this September where I'm walking through creating that contracting plan so that you're ready for for October 1st, so that you can hit the ground running. Maybe you're just saying, look, I want to get my stuff together for the new contracting year. You need to be at the contractors intensive. And as a bonus or a bonus day, you're not even in SAMS and you're confused about SAMS. I'm adding an extra day to walk you through getting SAMS registration right. All of that is on my booking calendar. So if somebody can drop this in the chat, it's https://LTACG.as.me. You can book a session with me. It's also on my private page. Your EUI. You know what? Old Sam's was a lot easier to use. This new Sam's is a pain in the behind. Good morning, Miss Cannon. This new Sam's is a pain in the behind, but they did the new Sam's. New Sam's is because people asked for it. And now that everybody got what they're asking, they asked for, it is frustrating people to no end. They didn't want to get a DUNS number. Okay, so Sam's came up with his own thing. And it's frustrating people. And then the numbers are hidden. There are some numbers you need to write down before you even go to another screen. So they did what people asked them to do. And now we're just trying to string along together. But that number you're looking for, I think it's on the third screen. I think it's on the third screen of the SAM's registration page. And if it's not on the third screen, you should have received it. I think it's in the email. I need to go back and check my SAM's because I'm a government contractor too. I need to go look at my SAM's email and see if they emailed it to me. But if not, it's on the third screen. But there's some numbers they email to you and some numbers you have to write down. So I'm going to look and see what they emailed me versus what I had to write down. And then I'll come back and tell you. But that's why I did the SAM's registration as a whole separate day. Because SAM's, the walkthrough of SAM's, registering through SAM's, and then having to go into the dynamic system, which is an SBA product. And I don't know why it was tied to SAM's. I'll never understand that. It's a whole thing. But, I do know why. Because you need to be in the dynamic system if you decide to go for the 8A certification. Your cage code is actually on your next to the last, and you get that in your email. They actually made that so difficult. They made that so difficult. With the new SAMs, your cage code is in your next to the last page. And there's like this separate thing where you have to tell them you don't have a cage code already. And it sends you off into this other page. And they send that to you in an email. And it's like the next to the last page where they tell you that. And once they assign you a cage code, you will get that in an email. Whereas in the old SAMs, all of that came to you in one email. This new SAM's thing is a piece of work. And if you answer one of those questions, if you answered one of those questions, no, they don't even give you a cage code. So you have to make sure you answer the questions correctly. Like if you say you're a nonprofit, they don't give you a cage code. But if you answer that you're a nonprofit seeking government contracts, they will. So you really have to be careful. If you are foreign, if you're a foreign company, they won't give you a cage code. You have to do some other things before you will get a cage code. and before you can even bid on a government contract. If you're a foreign company or you're somebody that's not a US citizen yet that want to do government contracts, you can still do them, but you have to do some other stuff before they will allow you to do government contracts. Because I used to work, my last company that I worked for was actually owned by a British company. But there's a way you can structure your company that will allow you to do government contracts even though you don't have US citizenry, or if you are, there's ways around it. But you have to make sure you're answering the questions correctly. Read those FAR clauses, because you can be saying yes or no to stuff, and you can be saying yes to things you need to be saying no to, or no to things you should be saying yes to. Yeah, read those FAR clauses that pop up. And that's why you need a compliance officer. Any more questions? Right. Yeah, the N cage is code for foreign. Now, the N cage for foreign restricts access to what kind of contracts you can bid. You bid on. A lot of people don't know that. Foreign entity companies that are not set up properly restricts the types of contracts you can bid on. Like I said, you need to ensure that your company is set up properly. Because like the last company I worked for before I went solo was owned by a UK company. However, their structure was such they had a US cage code that allowed them to work on classified projects because they knew how to set their company up, even though they were British owned. So they didn't have an N cage. It's not the Nevada S Corp, it's your structure. Because you have to ensure that even though you're foreign owned, there's nothing that's US, anything. I know what a corporation means. You have to make sure that the classified documentation does not end up in foreign. This is not for you. I'm just saying for the people that's listening. You have to make sure that if you have access to classified documents, they don't end up in foreign hands. So it goes beyond your company being a corporation. Your corporate structure has to be isolated from the foreign entity. Your accounting system cannot directly talk to their system. There has to be complete segregation. Before the day of wokeism, they used to use the term Chinese walls, which means there's no talking between the systems. So you would have to ensure it, and they would actually test the systems to make sure they don't talk. That's one of the things they're talking about with TikTok. They're saying the TikTok systems servers or the US systems are touching the Chinese system. They want to That's what allegedly all of that's about. Same concept applied to a government contractor. Same thing. So if have I answered everybody's question? So if that's all, I've pinned the comment with my booking calendar. I placed it in the chat over here on YouTube and LinkedIn. Grants and grants.gov work similarly. You have to be in SAMS. You have to have the similar accounting structure. You have to have the similar reporting system. Government grants, you need to read them things. That's why I teach a class on decoding the RFP, because a lot of those grants require you to have in-kind funds, which means if I'm giving you $1 million, you need to find another $1 million somewhere else. I need you guys on TikTok to tap the screen to keep the live going. Because a lot of people think everything, because I'm a nonprofit or whatever, I can go on grants.gov. Those requirements are deep and steep. So the in-kind funds is where people get tripped up. Some of the grants on grants.gov are available to for-profit companies. Grants.gov, a lot of those grants cover research. So if you do research, grants.gov. If you want to work with NIH, grants.gov. A lot of their stuff is not even on SAMS. A lot of their stuff is on grants.gov. So you really need to look all over. Who do you want to work with? And if you understand who you want to work with, that means understanding where this stuff is held. Everybody's stuff isn't on SAMS. A lot of this stuff is on grants.gov. So going on SAMS to look up their RFPs is a waste of time, which is why I tell people the first place you go to is not is not SAMS. The first place you go to is their website. Where's their forecast? That's the first place you go to. You read their forecast. And their forecast tells you if you have invention, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, SEC, you start on their website and go from there. SEC, U.S. Patent Trademark Office, and the other one just fell out my head as soon as I went to say the name. But you start there. Start on the agency's actual website. Pull their forecast and go from there. That's where you start from. And with that, because chat, we've gone a whole hour. With that, I'm gonna close out for the day. Have a good weekend. Join me Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another installment of Contracting Chatter. I'm your host, Luciana Turner, the CEO and the Chief Compliance Officer of the LT&A Consulting Group. If you wish to work with me, it's https://ltacg.as.me. Have an amazing and restful weekend, and I will see you on Monday morning.